In this video, what we're going to be doing is finally trying NixOS. And no, I'm not going to be distro hopping my desktop or laptops. I am going to be trying and using it as a server operating system here on my home lab. But first, let's kind of roll it back a little bit. What is NixOS? Simply put, it is a Linux distribution based around the Nix package manager. NixOS uses the Nix programming language, which its primary purpose is to define software and configurations. And there is a central configuration file on the system that controls a majority of all the settings and the actual packages that are on that system. And that same file is duplicatable, so you can use your same configuration on various systems to kind of clone your setup. It's immutable. The actual package manager defines and stores packages based on their hash. Everything from user files to network management are all within that configuration. And because it's mutable, it's really easy to roll back if you want to backpedal, make some changes. Dependencies are built and deployed per package, just similar to kind of like Docker, where it will eliminate dependency conflicts and versioning. In my little introduction, there was kind of just a little introductory surface scratch to what NixOS and the Nix package manager actually is and does. First looking at it and trying to figure out how to install it and use it is very intimidating, and even at least for me it was. But with the combination of just a basic understanding of how it works and their wonderful wiki of resources, it's pretty easy to figure out. Do I have it all figured out? No. But today is going to be a step, and we're going to be doing this on this mini PC right here. This is a Minisform PC with an Intel N100 processor. I like these little low-spec Intel boxes. They're incredibly power efficient, and they are powerful enough to do quite a bit, including, of course, install NixOS. This right here is the NixOS website. I do recommend you go through it, learn about it. Actually, head over here to learn and read as much as that as you can. But for now, we are just going to go download. Of course, you can just use the package manager on top of whatever you happen to be running, whether that be Linux, Windows, Mac OS, so on and so forth. But for this, we are going to get the distribution. Now, there are options here. You get the graphical ISO or the minimal ISO. We are going to be doing the graphical install and choosing not to install the desktop later. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and grab the GNOME version right here for Intel 64-bit AMD. Once you download it, use a tool such as Rufus if you're on Windows, or even the GNOME disk utility if you are on Linux, to go ahead and flash the USB with the ISO. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead, plug in the USB, boot into our computer. These are the BIOS. Depending on your motherboard, maybe a different button or one of the function buttons to get into that. But we're going to go to the boot menu here. You can see I do have a couple options. I'm going to dive into the Nix installer and then just give that a minute, let it boot up, and throw us into the desktop environment. All right, and we are in. So the very first thing is I'm actually going to want to connect to the internet really fast. Type in our password. I'm doing this as Wi-Fi for now just for this demo, but if you're actually going to use this as a server, please plug it into your Ethernet, your router, whatever. So this is Calamaris. If you've ever installed a Linux distro before, you're probably familiar with all of this. You're just going to want to go through and select all of the proper settings for your specific use case. So I filled this out. I'm going to use the same password for the administrator account and then continue from there. Here is where I'm going to select the desktop. Obviously, if you want a desktop, this is the place to do it. But for this is just going to be a little server. We really only want the terminal. So I'm going to say no desktop, and then I'm going to continue from there. I'm going to allow non-free software and then continue. Here is our partition, so you can see the drive I currently have in here. This right here, this NVMe SSD, is what I'm going to be installing it on. Do make sure you select the proper drive, and if you are overwriting a drive that you've been using, make sure you back up any important data. I'm going to select erase disk and then go ahead and proceed from there. You get overview everything you've selected, and then I'm going to hit install. Depending on your drive speed and all that, this could take anywhere from a couple minutes to like 15 minutes or so. And look at that, the installation's complete. So let's go ahead and restart our system, just like so. And there we go, let's boot on into NixOS here. And beautiful, we're in. Now I'm going to need to zoom in a little bit. This is a 4K capture card, but based on the information we put in the installer, we should be able to just log in with our username and our password. And there we go, we are now in our very own instance of NixOS. Now, because this is going to be a server, we're going to want to be able to access it remotely, and we're going to do that with OpenSSH. Now, like I said earlier, basically everything is done through the configuration file. So we're going to want to go ahead and open that up and edit it for the very first time. So to do this, we're going to do sudo and use my favorite text editor, nano, and this is going to be in the etc folder under NixOS. And this is going to be our configuration.nix. Go ahead and open that up. Verify we do have the privileges to go ahead and do this. And here is our configuration file. You could see a lot in it, including our bootloader, our networking configuration, time zone, a lot of stuff that we inputted during the installation process, of course, including our users here. And just to add a user, you could just type it in right here, copy paste this, add new users that way if you'd like to. We have the list of packages installed with our system profile, and then we have some stuff right here commented out. Now, right here we have the option to enable the OpenSSH daemon. So I'm simply going to go ahead and remove this comment to set services SSH enable to true, and to save this with nano, of course. So we're going to do Control O to output that file, Control X, and now we're back in our interactive terminal. Now nothing's actually changed as of yet. We need to rebuild this. So to do this, we're just going to want to run a sudo NixOS-rebuild and switch. Hit enter, and then it's going to go ahead and rebuild that configuration for us. We got some errors there to do with X server, but nothing that's going to slow us down as of yet. And now I wonder if it has the same IPA command. So I'm going to do IPA. It does, which is cool. And you'll notice even in this kind of a terminal instance, it's really good at giving us like some much better color coding for some of the text than you would get with like a normal Ubuntu install instance. It's easier to find the actual IP address here, which we can see is not connected. Oh no, we have to reconnect to Wi-Fi. Should have just plugged it in. Okay, so I wonder if this tool is available. MNCLI, it is. And with this, we could see our actual Wi-Fi and Ethernet devices there. We're going to do MNCLI. This is going to be device. This is going to be the Wi-Fi device that we see there. We're going to connect to Hopkify. This does have a password. And for this password, I'm going to go ahead and censor it out. But there we go. Type in your password. Hit enter. Hey, absolutely fantastic. So now if we run that IPA command again, hey, we actually got a local IP address. This is on 61. And look at that, we are in at work. So now we have full SSH access. So I can use this shot now so it looks a little bit better. Now we did use a password to log into SSH. I'm not going to go into it full detail right now, but we're starting to put up companion articles with the videos we put out. So if you do want to learn how to use SSH keys instead, which is generally a recommended practice, there is going to be some information on the article for that linked down below. Now, one thing I want to point out here is the NixOS manual. This is going to give you a lot of information on how to do various things, install packages, so on and so forth, as well as this right here. This is the NixOS unofficial users wiki. This also is extensive in the information that it provides on how to actually do various things on your system. For example, if I search Docker right here, it will go over how to install and use Docker in this operating system. And it's really as adding this line into that configuration file. So if we actually just go ahead and give this a copy real quick, jump back over here to our terminal, and that is, let's go back and edit the configuration. So sudo nano. Again, this is going to be in etc NixOS in our configuration nix. From there, we just add this line. So I'm actually going to go down to where our SSH option was. Right here, we have some open ports, some firewall. I am going to add it in right here. This is where I'm going to start kind of building my configuration. So let's paste that on in. I'm going to make this line up properly. Just like so. So virtualization, Docker enable true. Here we can go ahead and add our user to the Docker group. So again, instead of just typing in commands, we have this configuration, and it's really nice because I can just pull this configuration and drop it into a new installation. So my user is Brandon. And then right here we have the rootless option. So there's a whole guide on how to do this regularly, but for this we're going to copy. This allows us to do this without having to type in sudo. So just pop this in. Again, I'm OCD. I'm going to make all this line up right. There we go. Now additionally, I could have done it another way. So here we have adding that user to the Docker group with that users variable. But if I wanted to, I could just go over here under my user and add the group like this, Docker. And now I am in that Docker group. And I do actually like that way a little bit better. So I'm going to go back down to here. And I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm going to leave it, but I am going to comment that out. Control O to output this new configuration. X, and now we can rebuild the system using that same command that we used previously, sudo NixOS rebuild switch. Let's hit enter. So now since I'm in rootless, I should just be able to do a docker ps. Oh, it didn't work. I probably need to log in and log out of my user. Can I do it this way? Docker ps. Hey, there we go. So it's working. Absolutely beautiful. And let's just do a super simple test. Docker run hello world. Awesome. It's pulling it. And there we go. We got hello from Docker. It has worked successfully. Docker's up and running. Absolutely beautiful. Now, just to actually kind of test something that we can see, I'm just going to throw up a quick instance of Portainer. So we first create the volume. Copy this run command here, paste it in, because I don't really have much experience with the NixOS Firewall or anything like that, so I'm not sure if I have to do anything extra. But if I go over here and go to this Portainer port 433, I think this needs to be HTTPS, and it's not working. Again, we're learning together. Alright, so here is information. So again, just another something to add to our Nix configuration. Let's go ahead and jump back in there. And again, for how I'm organizing it, I'm going to try to keep all of the kind of Docker stuff together. So it's going to go in right here. Oh, here it is. Open ports in the firewall. So we have the allow ports or disable it all together if we wanted to. I am going to add this. And we are going to allow 9443 as well as 8080 for Portainer. I'm kind of falling in love with this, actually. Let's go ahead and rebuild this. Hit enter. Oh, okay. Oh, look, that's how you do ranges. That's nice. Go back in here. The more I do, the more sense this is all making. 8080. Hey, no errors. Except for that one, which I'll figure out eventually. And the firewall service is reloaded. There we go. Advanced. Continue. Get started. And here we are. We have our hello world and Portainer. So even with a couple minor roadblocks and kind of learning curves with the whole Nix programming language, it's pretty simple to figure out. You saw live me make a couple corrections, learn some things. I know how to mess with firewall configurations now. Overall, honestly, it's a pretty smooth process. Just in this firewall configuration alone, you can see it even gives me information on opening the firewall for specific services, and giving firewall permissions for specific network adapters, such as Ethernet, the Wi-Fi, which is what I'm currently using. Overall, this is nice. Another example of something that I might want to set up for a server instance like this is Cockpit. I just Googled NixOS Cockpit, found this nice guide on fiction becomes fact, and they go over the configuration again. Obviously, we're going to want to go ahead and open up our configuration file. And then for this, I'm going to make a new line. I'm going to call this Cockpit config. Going to add the Cockpit package into the system packages, and if we actually right click on this, you can actually view various packages on the actual nixos.org site, and you could search for the packages that you need here. For example, this right here is Cockpit, and you can install it directly in the shell like this if you wanted to. But I think I'm going to go about it this way, which after further investigation, I see right here the environment system packages. So here is how you install like vim, wget, for example. So right here, I think I would just go ahead, enter, double space, and then put Cockpit in there, just like so. And then here we have our actual Cockpit configuration. So I'm going to grab this, go back down to our network configuration here, and paste in the configuration. And we can see this is going to be on the port 9090, so I should probably open that up on my firewall here, 9090. And then let's save that out, see if I have any errors when I try to rebuild this. So NixOS rebuild switch. This time we're going to go to the port 9090, and here it is. I think I just log in with my actual user, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, here we go. Turn on admin access. Authenticate. And here we are. We are using barely any of our CPU, just about 600 megabytes of RAM. If you don't know Cockpit, it ships with, I believe, the Fedora server by default, but it's a great little tool for just kind of getting a little bird's eye view of your actual server, virtual machine, whatever you install it on. You can check out the logs through here. You can go over to storage, go over to networking. I'm not sure exactly on the compatibility of this and NixOS, but it's working, or at least the full compatibility. I haven't done too much in-depth research into this specifically. So there we go. Now we got our little NixOS box up and running with Docker, a couple ways to view Docker and the system resources, and we're starting to learn the Nix configuration. Doing something like this and actually kind of experimenting, trying to spin up services, installing packages and all that is a great way to learn it. You're not going to learn it by just kind of reading the config, or not config, reading the wikis and all that and going from there. You actually need some hands-on kind of lab experience, and that's what we're doing today. So my question to you guys is, are you using NixOS? How are you using it? Is it your main Linux distro? Do you have it on a little server running something? Or are you like me and just kind of curious and starting to dabble in it and figure it out? And with that, if you're interested in checking out some more videos, I have a great kind of home lab tour of all the various services that I'm currently running. And if for some god-awful reason you want to turn your Windows machine into your home server, I have a video on how to do that as well, if you want to go the complete opposite route from this video. I do hope you have an absolutely beautiful day, and goodbye.